particularly if, let's say you're in your 20s or 30s and you're coming up in the organization and you worry about your position. How do I get ahead? How do I get the older folks to pay attention to me? How do I get airtime? How do I get respect? How do I get them to trust me? And one answer is, don't pretend to be who you're not. If you're dealing with somebody who's 50 and you're 28, don't pretend to be 45, because the person who's 50 has seen 28 and they've seen 45 and they know the difference and they know you're not it. So what you want to do is be the best 28-year-old you can, admitting that the person you're talking to knows probably more than you do about a whole lot of things. You acknowledge that up front, and be clear about what you do know, and as clear as you can about what you don't know. So, I mean, that's a piece of it. I guess another provocative one would be, and this gets into being risk-taking and vulnerable and stuff. One of the most trust-creating things you can say, one of the most credibility-enhancing things you can say is, I don't know. Which of course is what we strive never to say. Oh my God, it's a kiss of death if I admit I don't know something, right? But in fact, I mean, think about it. If you say, I don't know, I mean, who's going to doubt you? Who would lie about that? Nobody. Yeah. So it enhances your credibility immediately, right? It also says, if you think about the subtext, I'm not afraid to tell you I don't know. It means I'm secure and I'm not perfect. I'll be the first to admit it. I know this, that, and the other. That one I don't know. So that right away says, not only are you credible and you know yourself, but you're not afraid to admit the boundaries of your knowledge. That says quite a bit about your character, all just packaged into 3 words. So, there's more broadly, I'll talk about a model called the trust equation, which masks as a quantitative formula, C plus R plus I over S, which describes the components of trustworthiness. Like, what does it mean to be trustworthy? Well, you can break it into 4 factors. Credibility, which is like expertise. Am I good at what I do? Reliability, do I do what I say I would do? Intimacy, an unusual word in the business context, but it means, do I feel safe with you? Can I share things with you? And in the denominator, which goes the other way, self-orientation. Like, am I wrapped up in my own head, neurotically obsessed about how I'm coming off, or am I actually relaxed enough to pay attention to you, the other person? So if you're good at credibility, you're good at reliability, you're good at intimacy, and you have low self-orientation, guess what? People are going to trust you. And you can sort of dissect the pathologies that come about from the absence of any one of those 4. If you're great on everything except credibility, we call you a windbag. Great person, just don't quote him, because it's if you're low on reliability, you're a flake. If you're low on intimacy, you're a nerd, a dork. If you have high self-orientation, we call you devious, which is a real killer, because people don't trust where you're coming from. So, I mean, I'm wandering around the farm here on that one, but there's a few ideas. Yeah, most of the people that I dealt with, as I said, over the years, are quantitatively oriented, so they like it. And we borrowed a form of the equation from somebody else. We changed it, but one of the things we kept was the idea of having a denominator in the equation, because mathematically you could flip it, just take the inverse of the S and put it in the numerator, and then you got A plus B plus C plus D. Well, that's boring. If we did that, everybody would say, well, what about E, F, and Q? Or, but by putting something in the denominator, it forces people to kind of think, oh, so that goes the other way. That must mean, let me play around with that. So, you can't get too quantitative, but it's just a model. But we did actually do a survey of 70,000 people who took it, and we're able, with some statistical confidence, to draw some conclusions about patterns of trustworthiness. I won't give away the punchline, but it's interesting if you look at who the most and the least trusted professions are, for example. You think about everybody would guess this, who's at the bottom of the list, who do we trust the least? Used car salesmen, politicians, and lawyers. Anybody surprised? Nope. I won't tell you the most trusted profession, but that is a bit of a surprise. But when I tell you in the class, you'll go, oh, of course, that makes sense. And it does. It's a good question. And unlike things like various personality profiles, you can change. You can get more credible. You can get more real. Some of it's easy. Reliability is the easiest one to fix. Just make a lot of promises and keep every damn one of them. That's not hard. Credibility, work hard. Actually, you can work on that one by being a truth teller. There's 100 lies we tell every day. Well, not 100, maybe a dozen. Minor lies, and not without meaning it. But a good example is, the mantra, under promise and over deliver. That's a double lie right there. You're lying to the person about what you're going to do. And then you're lying again when you deliver, other than what you said. You're better off doing exactly what you said you would do. And if it turns out you can't do it, then you immediately say, you know what, I got to make a change in that. You do that, that enhances your credibility. That plus working hard to get good at your profession. The biggest one, I'll tell you again, because the audiences that I work with, largely accountants, consultants, lawyers, they're all pretty cognitive. They're pretty, I forget whether that's right-brained or left-brained, but overly cognitive. They all overrate the importance of credibility in particular. In fact, that's number 3 or 4 on the list. The 2 soft skills, the intimacy and the low self-orientation, those actually are quantitatively more powerful than the hard skills that we tend to focus on the most. And I like the fact that we can sort of demonstrate that with the hard quantitative skills of a regression analysis. It's sort of, flipping the scales on people to use analytics to prove that analytics don't prove much.